I'm Kieran with Gamereactor, and we're at Unite Europe 2016 in Amsterdam, and we're going to meet some developers and check out some games. It should be fun. We're speaking to Laetitia, Senior Marketing Manager at Unity. What exactly goes into a Unity certification?
Well, so the Unity certification is basically an exam that people take, and the idea is that it's meant to validate foundational skills in game production with Unity. So it's really to show that people have an end-to-end understanding of the game production process, and to establish kind of a benchmark of proficiency in a very general sense.
Okay. And would you say it's become sort of a standard, like in the industry, to be certified to like a certain level like that?
Well, I think it's certainly the intent. I mean, we've just launched it fairly recently. It was kind of one of the first certifications to be in gaming, right? So, and it's certainly the first certification that Unity has put out. I think there's a lot of room and desire in the industry for validation of skills, and so, you know, this is our kind of first offering to respond to that need, which is both from the perspective of the people who want to communicate that skill to potential employers, but then also from the perspective of employers to really be able to know that the people that they're hiring have the skills that they say they do.
Yeah, definitely. And who would you say like the typical first time like user is for like Unity and looking to its certification?
So this initial level is really targeted towards people who are on the threshold of coming into the industry. So that would include students, but also people who are just kind of newer in the industry. Currently, because it's the only certification that's out there, people are actually really embracing it and using it to validate skills, because the exam is 100 questions across 16 topic areas. And so it's been really well received in terms of people just taking it to know, you know, where their strengths are and where their weaknesses are, where the areas they might need to do like additional studying or development, and then also to just kind of get that validation and sense of, you know, where they're at, because nothing like that really exists. And of course, for some people, it's like you have a really strong portfolio or you have years of experience, that's great, but there are a lot of people, you know, there's a whole gamut of people, you know, who are looking for different ways to validate that. So.
Yeah, it's obviously a very competitive industry. It's a good way to make sure you're good across like a broad range of different skills and different areas, so you're ready to sort of take that leap and go in.
And it's well, and it's, again, this is a starting point, right? This is our first level in the program. So right now it's just about foundational skills. You understand game production. You might not be, you know, you're going to maybe specialize in technical art, or you might specialize in programming, and we are planning future levels of the certification that will move in that direction and allow people to validate, you know, progressively more advanced and specialized skills. But this is right now just kind of a good way to, again, you know, that you have that end-to-end overlook of Unity.
Yeah, I saw within the keynote as well, like within the what was it, the Plus, Pro and Personal packages, that there was like a certain amount of months that come with it. Would you be able to talk a little more like about that?
Sure. Yeah, so the idea is in the Plus edition, we'll be offering 1 month free trial access to the courseware, and then in the Pro, it will be 3 months of access. So the courseware that's going to be available is going to be a structured learning program that will really take people from square one all the way through making a working game with Unity, you know, to publishing. And so for people who are just looking to learn Unity, it might just be a really good way to learn how to make games. We certainly have lots of free training material on our website currently, but for people who are looking for more of a structured experience as opposed to just kind of a self-study, self-discovery experience. So people might not even want to take the test. They might want it just for the sake of learning to make a game with Unity, but then of course it maps directly to the material that's covered on the exam. So it is a very good way to prepare, and it's set up in such a way that if you maybe are really familiar with some aspects of Unity but need to study others, you don't have to go through it linearly necessarily. You can just kind of skip around and study.
Just work to like build on any sort of weaknesses you may have.
Right, exactly.
Just tailor it to you.
Just fill in any gaps in knowledge, because it's just the normal way things go, that when you self-study and you figure out how to do things yourself, you may develop a way of doing it, but it's not necessarily the best way to fit into a pipeline or to collaborate with others. Or also you might just end up skipping over some parts because they're not necessarily relevant to what you're trying to achieve at that moment, but they're still important to just an overall understanding, right? And that's part of like really creating a standard in a profession, is just like there's just a benchmark of proficiency that even if you don't go very deep in a certain area, that you just have an understanding of how that works.
As a certification and looking at Unity like in this different way brought about any sort of changes?
I can't say that I can, say that yet. I mean, the thing is it's really new, right? We've just launched it at GDC. I think that's probably, that may be the way things progress, but it's too soon to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've pretty much answered my other question, which was basically saying about the state of like sort of game development, like qualifications beforehand. Like this is one of the early like certifications that's come available, hasn't it?
Yes.
But do you think it'll become more of a standard? That's what I'm saying, like in future.
So yeah, I do think it's going to become progressively more adopted. We've already seen a really good reception from companies. That's kind of where this came from in the first place, was in talking to our customers. There was a need for them to more easily find and qualify Unity talent, and to really be able to validate and measure people's skills. And so I think that's probably felt across the board. It's certainly not isolated. And so as the program continues to progress and we start to offer more facets to it to qualify skills, because again, we're planning on progressively more advanced levels, but also things like specializations, and even potentially into badging, where you can show that you did something in VR, that you have a competency in VR or whatever, to really allow people to communicate their skills on a granular level. I think companies are going to find that very useful, and they probably will adopt it increasingly. Is it ever going to be required? I mean, probably not, and that's the thing I think people need to remember, is somebody that has very strong experience, has strong connections, a very strong portfolio, maybe this initial level isn't going to be right for you, but a future one will. But for a lot of people, again, that are just trying, coming into the industry and need help communicating that credential, we think this is going to help them, and on the other side, that it's going to help the employer really find that qualified talent.
Thanks so much, anyway.
You're so welcome.
For speaking to us.